Hey guys, what's up? It's Katy and I'm back with another Marvel Contest of Champions video. And I was going to leave this as a topic I spoke about in a live stream, but I keep getting questions about this boycott and what I think about it. So I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the boycott. Now, this video might go a little bit longer than most of my other videos, but this is going to be the only one, well, most likely. So I just want to put it all out there. Now, there are a few things that I want to talk about. First and foremost, let's take a look at some past Kabam versus community issues. The first kerfuffle that I remember happening, other than Kabam putting in item caps, was back in the day, and that was when Kabam was nerfing perfect block and willpower. Now, if you weren't around during that point, the TLDR is you could assemble a team where you could take no block damage, and willpower used to heal you over 1% per debuff on you, regardless of the number of stacks you had. Now, of course, suicides with willpower was allowing you to heal more than what you were losing. Kabam came in and said that they were removing perfect block and willpower was being nerfed to what we see today. Now, everyone was pissed, including myself, and I was on the whole F Kabam train because I was still trying to build my perfect block team since you couldn't get the champs as frequently then as you do now. But in retrospect, though, those changes were beneficial because the game wouldn't exist in its current state without those two mechanics. So Kabam was going to refund the willpower mastery, but the community got a bit irked because we were under the impression that without willpower being how it was, running suicides was going to be detrimental. So everyone wanted their suicide masteries refunded as well, but Kabam was like, nah, fam. Now, there wasn't quite a boycott, but it was the first real community versus Kabam, and it was clear what we wanted. Suicide masteries refunded, and eventually Kabam gave us what we wanted. Now, time goes on, and there are some more kerfuffles, but the next big incident was 12.0. Now, anyone who wasn't there for 12.0, the TLDR is basically Kabam changed everything in the game, nerfed a lot of god tier champs, and I'm not going to go into all the details because there are a ton of videos out there, so look for those if you want more details on 12.0 if you weren't around. So this became actually so big that magazines and game articles actually picked up on it, and the community was against Kabam yet again. Now, we wanted the game rolled back to the previous version, and we wanted more transparency from Kabam. If you think Kabam isn't transparent now, oh, honey, you don't even know. You don't even know, right? So 12.0 was dropped on us like, here you go, bitches, enjoy. Now, since then, other boycotts have tried to spring up over other issues here and there, but none have really gained a lot of traction. The boycott talk that is happening now has some fire underneath it, so that is why I kind of want to address it. Now, the reason I bring these 2 points up is this. It was very clear what the community wanted from Kabam in both those instances. The first instance, we got what we wanted, and that was it, right? The second, Kabam kind of went back to the drawing board, compromises were made, and eventually things were smoothed out and life went on. We did get more transparency from Kabam after 12.0, and I actually think the CCP was probably formed as a result of 12.0, and it might not be the transparency though that people wanted, which gets me to the point of some of the issues in the current situation that is happening right now. So first thing first, I'm not going to disparage both sides. I'm not for it and I'm not against it. I feel like there are some big egos in there, maybe some dick measuring is happening, but as soon as the boycott got started, I was added to a room and I wasn't really sure what was happening in there. I just kind of sat back and read messages, and it was basically the beginning of what you see happening now. Now, one of the things that was kind of concerning to me was that there was a lot of complaining and a lot of different issues being brought up. I'm talking one end of the spectrum to the other. So you had everything from drop rates to Act 6 to Act 7 to communication to war to arena to alliances, and then just all the bullet points to go along with them. The first thing I noticed was that this was going to be more complicated than in the previous kerfuffles, because back then the problem was identified and what we wanted as the fix was more clear cut. Now, after speaking with those spearheading this, I was kind of trying to explain that they needed to be more specific and more concise. When I look at a situation, I always look at the pros and the cons, and I try to figure out the best way to solve those said problems. If you watch any of my rant videos, you know I always give a suggestion on how an issue or issues can be resolved. Now, I agree, there are some huge issues with the game. I have made videos about them, and I hate watching the death of free to play. Now, I've watched Hector's video about him being one of the most skilled players in the game, and he is doing legends runs, etc., and he still can't keep up with the spenders, and the game shouldn't be like that. I hate that we're still getting PHC shards and AQ milestones. The rewards are so 2016 and behind the times, and I just don't get it. All right, so back to said boycott, right? All right, so this is the first image that kind of popped up. So basically it's the movement, 1-star reviews on Apple Google stores, in addition to verbal complaints into the Apple Google legal teams, contact Marvel Games execs to inform of what Kabam is doing in MCOC and why we are boycotting, spending freeze effective immediately, no deals, crystals, Unix, etc. for the duration of our negotiations, get big YouTubers on board to join and promote the movement. Our goal is to bring Kabam to the table to discuss community issues and concerns in hopes that we can negotiate the game's direction in good faith. So this is honestly usually what happens when a boycott is mentioned. The first issue they have on here, though, is champion nerfs. Now, this one, I don't understand. It's very vague, right? Do you mean champs being nerfed at all, or timelines, or what? Now, the second is RNG specifically based on past purchases. So I'm assuming here they're talking about the patent. Next one is improved customer service, and I 100% agree on this since it can be very hit or miss. Now, I don't know if Kabam farms that out or what, but to me, it doesn't seem to be like their customer service is in-house. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. Now, all right, moving along to transparency with key leaders of Alliance and not just the CCP. Now, this one is interesting because I've heard different people bring this topic up. Maladar, Katy, and Ilac have brought this up, just to name a few of the people who have brought it up, and they all kind of want this, but I can guarantee you they all have different ideas on how this is formed, what it looks like, who's on this council, what communication they have, what access they have, you know, who decides who's on it. The list goes on and on. And this leads me to a lot of issues going on with this boycott because people are bringing up problems, but they're not coming up with how they want them to be fixed. It's just coming out like, we don't like it, fix it. You're bringing up questions and you're leaving it up to Kabam for the solutions, and I'm willing to bet that you're not going to like the solution that Kabam comes up with. I mean, think about it this way. Think about the gates in 6.2. We didn't like the gates in 6.2, so in 6.3, Kabam made the paths even more restrictive with only a select few champs who could take the path or the boss. So with that being said, you really don't want Kabam to have the solution to your problem. All right, so the next point is respect for constructive criticism, and I'm sure that's about Kabam and or their mods on the forums deleting posts. Now, I can't speak too much about this because I really don't go to the forums. Now, the final point is in-game economy, and this one is so vague, like, you don't even know where to start, right? If you look at it from Kabam's point, what resources are you talking about? Is it ISO? Is it gold? I mean, we've heard all of these things, but it needs to be narrowed down. And I'm getting to my point. Now, I brought up my concerns to those in this chat and was like, everything is a bit vague. Now, Maladar released a video the other day, and this is no disrespect to Maladar because I like Maladar, I like his content, I consider him a friend, and if you're not subbed to him, go give that man a sub. But anyway, back to it. He had a video that was clearly driven by emotion that really didn't say much, and I was still kind of confused and getting questions about the boycott. So then I watched KT's video and he brought up the same concerns. Then Maladar released another video and it brings up this. Okay, so it brings up this document, and I think this is more finalized of what the group wants. But this kind of is a bit of a problem here, because it says issues to discuss to be further examined. Now, this is where you're already losing me. We're going back to the this sucks, fix it mentality, and we can all agree that if you leave it up to Kabam, you know, to fix your problem, you're probably not going to like the outcome. The problem needs to be specific and the solutions do as well. Think of it this way, right? Think of the community as like a union, right? And Kabam as the employer. When a union goes on strike, they don't say work sucks, fix it. They don't really even say we want better pay, better benefits, etc. No, they go in and they say we want a 5% raise, we want a 1% employer contribution to our 401k, and we want these 3 specific safety issues addressed, and we want a donut maker in the break room. Now, then the company might come back and say, well, we'll give you a 3% raise, the employer contribution, will fix 2 out of the 3 of your safety concerns, and we'll give you a juicer in the break room. Then it's up to the union to either accept or renegotiate. But the point is there that you've given them a starting point for solutions. Now, the past boycotts somewhat followed this structure, and that's why I think Kabam was more receptive to them. The perfect block incident, Kabam gave us what we wanted, the suicide mastery refund. The 12.0 incident, we didn't get exactly what we wanted, but we laid out, you know, issues within 12.0 that were fixed, and we got some transparency. Now, we weren't specific on that transparency, so the transparency that we have today is what we got. Now, this leads me to one of the concerns in the room about not being able to target specific champs. Now, if you go to Kabam and say, we need a way to target specific champs, you need to fix it. They could come back and easily say, all right, here, you can open 2 of the same incursion crystals during the same cycle instead of just 1. Now, basically, they gave you what you wanted, but is that the answer you wanted? I'm assuming not. But if you come to them and say, hey, we want class-specific crystals where we can use our shards, or year-specific crystals for the champs. You could also say, we want the 5 and 6 star drop rates upped in the Cav crystals, or get rid of the 3 stars in the Cav crystals. There you've laid out to Kabam exactly what you want and given them a starting point. Now, this leads me to another problem, your demands. You have all these people boycotting from all these levels of alliances. So the solution to someone in Asgard may not fit the solution to someone in a Gold 2 or Silver 2 alliance. But if you laid out exactly what you wanted, then players could say either they agree or disagree with that solution. So let's take a look at these expanded issues. The transparency here is basically the same, but who makes up this council? Who decides on it? I've heard the top 30 alliance leaders, and let's all be honest, does someone sitting in a Gold 2 think someone from a top 30 alliance is going to look out for them? Historically, that hasn't been the case. Now, these competitive alliances have always been known to, squeeze out any loophole or advantage that can benefit them. Now, I'm just being honest here, all right? Can you even get all of these egos to agree on something? Going back to Maladar's first video, they couldn't even agree on when to start this boycott or how long it would last. Now, I did ask a question regarding that, and basically this was the response here. So the response is, the council is a voted on set of representatives from each tier that lead or are known throughout the community. They have access to nominate yourself, your friend, your leader, but point is that it's community driven. Kabam has the ability to provide polling inside their forums, so it's not hard to do. Then you take that link and it's broadcasted by bots. A lot of us have them for line chat, giving everyone access to vote. If you chose not to vote, that's up to you. The access they have are being able to ask questions and being objective in a constructive way without the post being deleted, turned away, but actually listened to. So this is good in theory, right? But how well it works in execution is to be seen. Now, I can actually see kind of a few kinks in it. I think it would just honestly turn into a popularity contest, and it really still doesn't answer the question of what access do you want? People keep bringing up the CCP, and I gotta be honest, I've only been in it for about 4 months, maybe a little less, and we don't really have any control over the content being created or released. All right, so back to Maladar's post here, right? Let's bring that back up. So let's take a look at define the words bugs and tuning to further avoid confusion, address legitimate bugs within a reasonable time frame, define a time frame for tuning, such as that for champs and don't go outside that time frame, and no total retroactive nerfs to champs' key abilities with which they were advertised and released as after a certain time frame. Okay, so I agree with this. Now, Kabam needs to be transparent with how they view their characters and interactions in the game. I've made a video about that, and again, the TLDR is you cannot come back and nerf a champ or interaction like Corvus 2 years later. A lot of times I think Kabam wants to introduce a new game mechanic that might pertain to an older champ being able to bypass said mechanic. Think She-Hulk heavy. Now, I'm sorry, but you can't do that, Kabam. You can't do that, in my opinion. Too bad, so sad. You made your bed, sleep in it. All right, now Kabam has to remember that they didn't give us these champs, right? We either paid for them via money or time. Now, I agree with these points, but I feel like they need to be fleshed out just a little better. But they're solid points. Now, I would give Kabam a timeline saying you can't fine-tune a champ after X amount of time. Now, I'm not going to define what that time is. That's up for the council. All right. The topic of patents on loot boxes and RNG based on past spending habits. Now, this one is tricky because a patent is involved. Now, are they using this patent? I can't say for sure. I don't think anyone actually can. There is definitely something fishy going on though, because example, I spent years trying to dupe my magic, and I finally used the only Mystic Awakening gem I had at that time on her, and I kid you not, later that day I got the shards for the Grandmaster Crystal, and guess who I pulled? Yep, my first ever 5-star out of there, and it was a magic. Same thing actually happened to me with Thing. Wasn't the same day, but it was in the same week. Now, honestly, this one may just need to be thrown out because Kabam, honestly, I don't think will ever admit to this. And with the patent being involved and potentially legal issues with Apple, because with Apple you have to disclose the drop rates, I don't know if it's gonna happen, so good luck on that one. Now, customer service. Excuse me, I skipped one. Let's take a look at the respect for constructive criticism. Now, I agree with this because I don't spend a lot of time on the forums, if any at all, but I have seen some screenshots of warnings and posts being deleted when honestly they probably shouldn't have. But like I said, I don't go into the forums, so I don't get the full context of everything. Now, as for the customer service, I already spoke about that earlier, so we're just gonna skip over that one. A better alliance war matchmaking system that matches alliances of equal standings. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to making a demand, because this is very specific and you're not really giving Kabam any leeway to interpret what you're saying. Now, I might be a little bit more specific on what set of factors of matchmaking to consider, whether it be PI, prestige, alliance war rating, etc. Now let's talk about the in-game economy. we're back to something just so vague. This could be extrapolated to mean 500 different things, and to be honest, I don't have the time or the breath to go over it anymore because this video is already getting pretty long. Okay, so update to daily and monthly quest rewards. This one is also a little vague, and it could be more specific on what exact rewards do you expect. Do you mean sig stones? This might actually be good to kind of knock out in 2 points. One being not enough sig stones in the game unless you buy them, and then basically the rewards are outdated. All right, arenas, one of my favorite topics. This is another one. I have done several arena rants, and if you want any of my ideas, I can post a link to that video or you can check it out in my channel. But here you are leaving it up to Kabam to decide. Now, Kabam might decide on the top 200 when you in fact wanted the top 300, or someone else wanted the top 400. Specificity is key. That way you give Kabam no wiggle room to misinterpret what you're saying. And this is basically the point that I'm trying to make. Everyone involved in this boycott needs to know exactly what they're boycotting for. I've seen complaints in the boycott room from free-to-play issues and other things that really aren't addressed in here. So you have a lot of people in here who are just joining because they're unhappy with the game, or basically game bad, please fix. Now, if you're going to join the boycott, make sure you know what you're boycotting for and the specific solutions to those issues. Don't be boycotting for someone else. Boycott for you. Now, the last thing I want to address is this. When does the boycott even start? I mean, some are boycotting now, others are waiting, some are doing logout boycotts, others are doing spending boycotts, but I mean, let's be honest with the spending boycotts, the offers are shit right now. All right, so, and then another thing, when does the boycott end? Is it going through July 4th if these demands aren't met? Who decides when this boycott is over? If Kabam came to you and said, what does it take for this boycott to be over? What do you say? And that's something that needs to be laid out, right? Do they actually have to fix something, or can they just say, we hear you? Because I mean, let's face it, we've all seen that response. If I personally was leading a serious boycott, the first thing I would want to do would be I would want to identify 5 pain points and 5 demands with solutions on how to fix those problems. You don't want to throw a million things out there because then it's honestly just too much noise. Then I would have a clear roadmap for Kabam to satisfy the wants and the needs for those in the boycott. And to be honest, I just don't see that here, and I hate to keep saying it, but I see a lot of game bad, please fix. Now, we can all agree that the game isn't in a good state right now. So as for me, I am actually not going to be participating in the boycott, but I'm not going to discourage anyone else from doing it. I just want to give Kabam more time to respond, but I wanted to get my thoughts out on here because I keep getting questions. Now, I won't be spending on the game right now, and honestly, it's pretty easy because, again, the offers are straight garbage. But I'm not going to lock myself in a boycott with no definitive path. There are so many people involved, and they all want a better game, but they all want their own version of a better game. I've seen arguments in the chat about what 2 different minds want. And with that being said, you honestly shouldn't attack another player for either joining or not joining the boycott. Just because a player doesn't want to join the boycott doesn't mean he or she is satisfied with everything in the game. I'm not. Now, we all want a better game, right? Now, whether you're in the boycott or not, that's the end result. Remember, guys, be excellent to each other. But if you or someone in your alliance wants to join the boycott, I will put an email in the description of the video and a person you can get into contact with. Now, in all honesty, I think Kabam does hear you. I'm sure they are aware of it, even if they haven't mentioned it. Now, I do know they are working on some things for the game, and those things just honestly don't happen overnight. Those of us in the CCP don't really have as much pull as you guys think that we do. From what I've seen in the limited time I've been in there, we get the information for content a little bit earlier than you guys do. sometimes honestly less than a day. So, and we just ask the questions that you guys would probably ask since we play the game, and well, Kabam says they play the game. Now, there are people in there that look at the numbers and the stats to make sure that the tools that you guys like to use, like Aunt May, make sense. There are some people in there that just run the numbers, and when the numbers don't make sense, they say, hey, that doesn't make sense. Think about it this way. So the Alliance ticket system, for example, the original post didn't mention anything about mixed alliances until we asked. Kabam didn't realize it until we asked. And then what information came to you is Kabam said they were aware of it, and that was because of the questions that we asked. Take Act 7 beta, for example. The CCP, we gave our feedback, and to be honest, it wasn't good. We were harsh, criticizing, and honestly, well, we were not well receiving of the Act 7 beta. And it didn't seem like Kabam took it seriously until Seaton made that video and everyone was like, that's exactly how we feel. And that's when Kabam decided to kind of take it back to the drawing board, right? Now, we didn't get that done. You guys did. So you do have a voice, and Kabam does listen. You just might not like the answer. Now, when Act 7 comes back out, it could still be shit. But hey, they changed it. We just might not have been specific enough. So anyways, guys, if you made it here, you guys are dedicated. Thank you so much. This was long-winded, but I kind of just wanted to get everything out on the table for you. But anyways, guys, that's all that I got. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this boycott? Are you joining the boycott, or are you sitting this one out? Do you think they need to be more specific in the demands and in their solutions? And do you think Kabam will listen? Also, do you know when this boycott is gonna start? Let me know in the comments below and let's discuss. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. If you guys liked what you saw and you wanna see more, please remember to like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and hit me up in the Discord chat. Thanks, guys. Bye.